Hey everybody, what's up? I'm back on the hunt for the board games. Well, over the last 3 weeks, I've been traveling a lot. I've been in Alabama, Florida, and Mississippi. And in all my travels, I ended up getting about 6 games. Nothing special. I got some to sell, some to keep. But overall, not too bad. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and see what happens this week. Fireball Island, Dark Tower, come to me, baby. This is the plaintiff, the People's Court board game. He says that the defendant slandered him by saying that he'd rather have tarantulas lay eggs in his ear rather than to play this game with his friends. This is the defendant, Norm Hastings. He claims that's exactly what he said.
Judgment is for the defendant.
Here's an old game from the 90s called Split Second. This is a trivia game that uses a unique contraption to answer the questions. We have this one, but I might check this out and get it. I might be able to sell it for something. Here's a nice newer copy of Uno Deluxe. My wife and I, of course, have a copy similar to this. Normally I would get it, but it doesn't really sell for much, and they want a little bit too much for it, so I'm going to leave it. Here's a game called Celebrity Taboo. Now, Taboo is one of my all-time favorite games. But this one's a little bit outdated. But I want to check something. There's a person I know that was curious to see if he was in this. Hey there, yeah, well, I went through the game like you wanted me to, and I'm sorry, they didn't use your name as a clue.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Well, they just didn't use your name as a clue. They didn't think you were important enough. Here's another 90s game called Inklings, the game of little hints. This game actually won some awards back in the day, and it looks pretty cool. I think I'm going to check this one out too and see if everything's there. Here's a political game called The Oval Office, The Race to be President. I was originally excited when I saw this because I like political games. I have a couple of them. But this is a trivia game, and I'm going to just probably leave this here. It's not worth that much anyway. Here's a light, fun little game called Blurred, the Webster's Game of Word Racing. This game's really easy to play. We have a copy of it. Unfortunately, it's not worth that much, so I'm going to leave this copy here. Here's a unique game, Abalone. This is a game that was made, I think, in the late 80s, and it won some awards. It's an abstract game where you're trying to push marbles off of a grid. Looks pretty cool. I'm going to check it out. Here's an old vintage game called Who's It?, the guessing game by Parker Brothers. This looks like a game my family would enjoy. It's light and pretty easy to learn, and it's vintage too, so I'm going to check this one out too. Check this out, guys. This is like an old vintage version of Stratego. This is a great game. It's in really good shape too. I think I'm going to definitely check this one out and count the pieces and stuff. Well, everybody, here's the games we ended up getting this session. We got the vintage version of Stratego, great shape, complete. We got Who's It here. This is a pretty interesting little game. I found a copy of Quirkle, too. I'm going to sell this. We found Inklings. I'm going to keep this one. I think my family will like it. We found Split Second. I'm going to go ahead and try to sell this. I might be able to make a little bit of money. And finally, we got Abalone. This is a pretty cool game. I'm probably going to do a review on this later. Well, folks, no major board game scores this week, but we did find some pretty cool games. Some to buy, some to sell. Not bad.